Alright guys, I thought it might be a good idea to just do a quick tutorial on minor scales. The chapter in the textbook, chapter 6, also covers diatonic modes, but we can definitely leave that for another day. So I just wanted to try to clear some things up and maybe give you a couple of more strategies for approaching minor mode. So we'll start with the idea of parallel keys. This is something we barely touched on in class today. Um, we talked more about relative keys, but parallel keys will share the same tonic. So E major and E minor would be an example of parallel keys because E is the same tonic for both. Um, the difference will be in scale degree 3, which is Mi, scale degree 6, which is La, and scale degree 7, which is Ti. In minor mode, in the parallel minor, each of those three will be lowered by half steps. So we talked about that today. Mi becomes Me, La becomes Le, and Ti becomes Te. So instead of like Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do, we would change 3, 6, and 7 to be Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, Le, Te, Do. And that gives us the half step lowering of each of those scale degrees. So we'll look at an example now with E major and E minor within the same song. We're going to check out a Schubert Lieder, which starts off in E major, where the text is a little bit happier, and then we get another verse later on in E minor, where the text is a more somber subject, but it keeps the same contour, so that's kind of cool. So let's check that out. This is from Der Lindenbaum. So I'm going to play this for you. We'll get a short excerpt here.
Am Brunnen vor dem Tore, da steht ein Lindenbaum.
So this uses the pentachord of Do through Sol in major, because we're in E major. So he ended about Dam, so Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol. That's what we have, the major pentachord, which is where this excerpt comes from. Then later on in the song, we have E minor. And you'll notice the range is approximately the same, but the key signature now only contains one sharp, which gives away the fact that we're now in E minor. So let's have a listen here to how that has changed.
Ich musst auch heute wandern, vorbei in tiefer Nacht.
So in this excerpt, all we've done so far is just change this third scale degree from Mi to Me, in the vocal line anyway. We have Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, which is almost the same, but of course that flat 3 is different. So that is parallel keys, E major and E minor in this instance. Next we'll look at relative keys, which is what we spent some time on today in class. So they will have different tonics, but the key signature, or the collection of notes, collection of pitches, I suppose you could say, will stay the same. We're just kind of reordering. You remember that we look for scale degree number 6, and if you start from there, if you start from La and go up, then you will create a new collection and a new tonic, but use the same exact notes. So here's an example of G major scale. We'll find scale degree 6, or La, which is E. And if you start from there and go E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, and so on, you will build the E minor scale, the natural minor scale, that is, if you keep the same exact key signature. Um, so we'll check out an example of relative keys um, with a Corelli um, concerto, or sonata rather. We're going to hear A minor to start with, and its relative key of C major. Remember, they use the same collection of notes, but we're just reordering. A, of course, is the sixth scale degree, or La, of C major. So we're going to get the minor part first, actually. So if you look at the collection of notes we have here, it's scale degree 1, scale degree 2, 3, and then we have low 7, um, which you'll notice has a sharp on it. So that's actually a leading tone, not the subtonic that we talked about earlier today. So we have do, re, mi, ti, and then do. Then if we continue along in the music, so we just saw the opening 3 measures, or like 2 and a bit. If you continue along in the piece, we're going to go to the relative key of C major, measure 13 through 15. And so notice that we still have the same kind of melodic contour. It's do, re, mi, ti, do. So it's, exactly the same melody, but we are now starting on C instead of A, and that means that the melody will be do, re, mi instead of do, re, mi. So we'll have a listen here to the next section. Okay, so there is a pretty good example of relative keys. In this case, we just had the minor first and then the major. So if you're in a minor key and you'd like to find the major key, you just need to find the third scale degree, which is going to be a flat 3 scale degree. That doesn't mean that the note will have a flat on it necessarily. I just mean to say that this is like the lower scale degree 3, or mi. So you're going to find that in the minor scale, and that pitch is the tonic for the relative major. So in our example here, if we're in the key of G minor, we go up to scale degree 3. So we have do, re, mi. That third scale degree is going to be B flat, which means that in the relative major, remember we're sharing the same key signature but not the same tonic. So in the relative major, that B flat is the tonic. So this means the key of B flat major and the key of G minor share the same key signature. So we'll start to wrap this up. I want to show you a circle of fifths with the minor keys instead of the major keys, which is how it's typically represented. But here it is, same thing, except every step along the circle is a minor key instead. So let's just have a look at that. You'll notice at the top C major and A minor, like what we did with the Arcangelo Corelli sonata. And then we have 1/5 above that, G major and E minor. We looked at an example of that. And then if you look at E major, which is going to be down on the right side, so notice that that has 4 sharps. So I'm thinking back now to the Schubert piece that we heard in the beginning, Der Lindenbaum. So that piece started in E major, and it ended, if you remember, with the more sad verse in E minor. So there's one kind of pattern here that I want to point out to you that can be kind of helpful. This is a different strategy for finding parallel major and minor. So what you do to go from the major to the parallel minor, remember that's sharing the same exact tonic E, is you go 3 accidentals lower, or you could say you subtract 3 accidentals. So in our case here, E major has 4 sharps, and E minor has 1 sharp. So 4 minus 3 is 1. In another example, so let's say you're in the key of C major, and you want to go to the parallel minor, and you want to get that key signature. So you're going to subtract 3 or lower 3, however you want to think about it, from our key signature. And you might be thinking, well, key of C has nothing in the key signature, so what do? Well, that just means that the key of C minor will have 3 flats. So it's as if you lowered the only available 3 flats as you go around the order of flats. So that would be B, E, and A. All of those 3 would be flat for the key of C minor. It's a little more abstract going that way if you're dealing with flat keys, obviously, but you get the idea. Similarly, you could look at the key of F major, which has 1 flat, and then if you want to go to the parallel minor of F minor, then you go down 3 more flats, I guess you could say. So that means we'll be adding 3 flats to the key signature. So it'll have 4 flats, and it will be B, E, A, and D. So hopefully that strategy will start to click as you look at more and more music. But let's wrap this up. Let's do a quick summary here. In parallel keys, we are going to share the same tonic, which is scale degree 1 or Do, as well as Re, Fa, and Sol. Those will all be the same. Most importantly, the tonic. They will have key signatures that differ by 3 accidentals, which is kind of what I was just talking about when we were looking at the circle of fifths. And relative keys will share the same key signature and the same diatonic collection. So that means they have the same set of notes, but the tonic will be different by 3 half steps and 3 letter names. So hopefully that helps clear up some things with the minor modes. There's also a couple of tutorials that I posted on Classroom for you, but this is a good starting spot.